Lost Souls. That's an awful poster, by the way, just awful. Directed by Janusz Kaminski, who is mostly known for being an accomplished cinematographer, working very often with Steven Spielberg on movies such as Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, amongst many others. This was his directorial debut. It stars Winona Ryder and Ben Chaplin. It's a psychological thriller, and IMDb also describes it as a horror, but I wouldn't go that far. It's certainly unsettling and creepy and very atmospheric, but I wouldn't necessarily call it scary. So, Winona Ryder plays a Catholic teacher who also occasionally assists during exorcisms. She does that just at the beginning of the film, and the whole thing in that particular scenario goes very badly. It's unsuccessful. Both the priest and the patient end up unresponsive and comatose, respectively. She then tries to decipher coded messages left by that patient, as she believes they are of demonic origin and they may lead to the person that's supposed to become the Antichrist and bring about Armageddon. Those codes eventually point her to a psychologist and writer that deals with cases of psychotic serial murderers, played by Ben Chaplin. And his skepticism and atheism gets challenged when confronted with Winona Ryder's character and what she has to say and show him. Now, the film was apparently a failure at the time of its release, especially the audiences didn't like it very much. And I have to say, I'm not quite sure why it was received so coldly. I thought it was a perfectly enjoyable movie, certainly engaging and thrilling. I think it shows that it's made by a professional cinematographer in the director's seat because it's so heavily focused on the visual side of things. It has a very distinct look, very distinct style with washed up colors, lots of grays, a lot of play with shadow and light. In this way, it kind of reminded me of Seven by David Fincher. Kaminsky knows what he's doing and he's using his skills as a cinematographer to create this nightmarish, slightly unreal atmosphere. Especially the scenes where supernatural things happen are shot in a kind of frantic, unhinged way, which is pretty good. I also enjoyed the way that the story is told. I went into the movie completely blind and I liked that it's scarce with exposition. It never lays things out clearly on the table. We as audiences have to figure stuff out from scraps, at least until the third act. And even then, some of the backstory reveals may, even though they may seem like shortcuts, like they're underdeveloped a little bit. But I actually thought they served the main plot quite well because they put the protagonist constantly in a position where he's completely out of his depth. He doesn't know what's going on around him. In this way, the movie owes a lot to Rosemary's Baby and The Devil's Advocate. His the whole life of the guy we're following gets thrown upside down by some external forces, by all those revelations. And I think having it be done this particular way helps put us, the audience, in his shoes as well. The one thing that I didn't like too much, and admittedly it's a pretty big part, are the two lead performances. I thought it's one of Winona Ryder's weakest. I didn't really care for her character, and Ben Chaplin is just anti-charismatic. I mean, he doesn't seem like a good leading man type, and you can kind of make a case that he's supposed to be this regular guy in this film. But the thing is, there are some actors who have this inexplicable magnetism that doesn't necessarily come from their good looks, but the way they are on screen. You just enjoy watching them and you instantly connect with their characters. Most notable example would probably be Brad Pitt, but less obvious ones I'd say are people like Adam Driver or Sam Rockwell. There's something about them, that energy, that charisma. And yeah, Ben Chaplin does not have a drop of it. He's lifeless and boring and just dull. So I can see this particular aspect of the film being kind of a turnoff. Having said that, though, I think that the strengths of the film, lay elsewhere anyway, and they outweigh its weaknesses. The strengths that lie mostly in cinematography and the atmosphere of dread and isolation that it projects. And so, even despite the lackluster performances, I think it manages to be quite decent overall.